Nous vous invitons à parcourir pendant ces 2 jours l'espace exposant qui complète les différentes interventions. Vous pourrez également participer à des interviews organisées par Electronic Mag et aux interviews décalées dans l'espace dédié. C'est une surprise, vous la découvrirez un peu en même temps que vous. Le colloque traitera pendant 2 jours des sujets novateurs liés à la mesure, à la fiabilité, aux circuits imprimés, aux technologies d'interconnexion et au brasage. La session 1, conception, sera présidée par Christian Maudet de la société Thales. À 11h55, la session 2, consacrée au brasage, sera présidée par Alain Puyandre, dirigeant de AOD Electronics. Après le déjeuner, Bernard Ledin, directeur du GIE Mérédith, présidera une session en 2 temps sur le vernis, les finitions, le PCB, puis les matériaux. Nous terminerons cette première journée par une session consacrée à l'innovation, à la formation, au développement économique dès 16h15. Elle sera animée par Gilles Rizot, secrétaire général de Axiel, syndicat de l'électronique abrité et faisant partie de la FIEC, et par Paul Friedel, directeur de Télécom Bretagne. Cette session économique permettra d'échanger avec les représentants des syndicats professionnels, les représentants du monde académique et particulièrement de l'enseignement supérieur, sur la filière électronique ainsi que sur les propositions d'avenir pour cette industrie. Nous vous proposons ensuite un cocktail dînatoire sur le bateau Azenor. C'est traditionnel, hein, ça se fait depuis quelques années, avec une balade dans la rade de Brest vers 19h. Le jeudi 6, nous débuterons avec la session 5 sur la conception et la fiabilité avec pour président Jean-Pierre Albrieux d'IFTEC. Session 6, brasage. Là, il y a un petit... Alors là, c'est le... je pense que c'est... le 6, qui c'est qui me souffle? Il y a un petit trou dans ma raquette, là. Session 6. Voilà, ben c'est moi-même. Le trou, c'est que j'avais fait une petite modif. Et on fait la session 6. C'est moi-même, mais j'ai trouvé un remplaçant, donc ça va bien, c'est pour ça que... Je vous dirai tout à l'heure qui c'est. Enfin, nous terminons cette manifestation par la session consacrée au vernis et à la fiabilité, présidée par Catherine Meunier d'Airbus. Francis Anglade, président de cette session il y a 2 ans, et nous a accompagnés depuis la première édition jusqu'à la 10e. Sa personnalité et sa gentillesse nous manqueront beaucoup. Je profite de ce moment pour avoir une pensée émue à son égard. Beaucoup d'entre vous le connaissez, bien évidemment. Son fils Emmanuel est parmi nous et fera une intervention. Je le salue et il fera une intervention sur cette même session demain dans la journée. Emmanuel, je te salue. À travers ce colloque, nous espérons vous faire bénéficier d'échanges constructifs. L'objectif de la fête depuis 25 ans est de valoriser le potentiel de la filière électronique en Bretagne occidentale. C'est dans ce contexte que la fête organise la 11e édition de ce colloque consacré aux technologies de l'interconnexion, de la carte électronique, en partenariat avec la S2E, le SNES et Axiel. Je tiens également à remercier BMO, alors pour je dirais ceux qui ne sont pas du coin, Brest Métropole Océane, puisque nous sommes devenus métropole, le Conseil général du Finistère, le Conseil régional de Bretagne pour leur soutien financier cette année encore. Pour information, dans le sac qui vous a été remis, vous trouverez notamment une clé USB avec une présentation des exposants, ainsi que les présentations des intervenants qui seront exposés pendant ces 2 jours. Je laisse maintenant la parole à Christian Maudet, président de la session Conception, pour entrer dans le vif du sujet. Merci encore de votre présence.
Merci Lucien pour cette introduction. Donc, je pense avoir salué certains d'entre vous, mais je profite pour vous dire bonjour à tout le monde. Et j'ai le privilège de commencer ce congrès avec la session Conception. Donc, j'invite nos représentants de la session à me rejoindre. Donc, Lars, s'il vous plaît, Christian Ulrich, Nicolas, peut lever et on sera au complet. Donc la session conception, on a regroupé dans le comité de choix de sélection des sujets, on a regroupé certains sujets un peu d'ordre général en préambule à ce congrès, alors qu'on retrouvera la conception tout au fil des autres présentations. Ce que je pourrais dire en préambule, on a tenté depuis quelques années à renforcer la continuité entre conception et fabrication, et c'est quelque chose qu'on doit continuer à développer, et on le verra à travers la majorité des présentations, que ce soit les premières qui évoqueront largement les enjeux de fabrication, et on verra également dans tous les enjeux de fabrication, que ce soit sur les matériaux, les finitions ou autres, on verra que tout ça se définit et se sélectionne pendant des phases de conception, et on a tout intérêt à avoir cette continuité de manière très très forte. Dans nos présentations, dans les présentations d'ordre général qu'on va avoir, la première de Lars, Welcome Lars in Brest, on va avoir un effet de style assez habituel chez Lars pour nous montrer un petit peu des enjeux sur un angle toujours décalé de l'électronique et sur un côté décalé, tout le côté sérieux qu'il faut y associer pour réussir parfaitement des conceptions et surtout derrière les fabrications. On aura un second sujet qui n'est pas commun et que j'y suis très sensible, que Christian Ulrich nous a proposé. Donc je reviendrai un petit peu plus en détail sur le profil, sur les gestions des ressources emplacement-routage. Donc emplacement-routage, on va parler de tout ce qui est le métier d'implanteur et cette gestion des ressources, un poste assez sur le fil du rasoir, sur le chemin critique de l'ensemble des conceptions. Et c'est quelque chose qui n'est pas commun comme présentation et j'y suis très sensible, venant moi également de la partie placement-routage. Ensuite, on aura une présentation vue par un EMS, par Cella, qui viendra nous présenter un peu tous les enjeux du DFX et comment le DFX, ils le perçoivent et comment ils tentent de le développer pour les designs et qu'ils auront ensuite à assurer la production. Et pour finir, je reviendrai dans mon corps métier. Mon métier, c'est la mise en place des outils de conception depuis très longtemps. Et je vous ferai un état des lieux, des solutions de conception, l'état des lieux sur le marché. Où on en est actuellement, est-ce qu'on est satisfait? Si on souhaitait développer, vers où il faudra aller. Donc on aura ces 3 présentations, on va essayer de gérer le timing correctement. Donc je propose que l'on commence par celle de Lars. Donc c'est sûrement un des visages les plus connus de l'électronique suédoise, au moins en France. Lorsqu'on parle d'électronique suédoise, moi c'est son visage qui me revient en premier, toujours. Donc Lars, il est diplômé du Royal Institute de Technologie de Stockholm et il accumule 38 ans dans l'électronique. Donc avec d'autres collègues, on vient de passer au-delà des 20 ans, 25 ans. Là, on est sur l'étage encore au-dessus. Donc 38 ans et surtout à travers tous les passages de l'électronique, du design, fabrication PCB, PCBA. Donc une légitimité à en parler et il va pouvoir introduire de manière un peu dynamique ce colloque comme à son habitude. Et il est surtout notre représentant de l'IPC pour l'Europe et il commercialise tous les objets associés à l'IPC. Donc je lui propose de prendre la main pour cette première présentation. Je lance la logistique Lars.
Good morning, French men and French women. Are you awake? Very good. Me too. This presentation is a little bit different from the other ones. As Christian said, I would like to make an overview. What can we do to make this complicated piece of plastics, which we are all dealing with, more reliable and with higher quality? So we start with that. First, you're welcome. And secondly, have we met before? How many have met me before? Raise your hand. Okay. Not so many. Okay. Those who haven't met me before, you haven't missed so much. Who was here 2014? Okay, so you have met me there. Anyhow, how many of you understand my English? Raise your hand. Yeah, you know, I hear you. Because the reason is that I'm sure many of you are rather good in English, but my French, that's zero. Unfortunately, I would like to speak more French, so I can order your excellent wine and excellent food, but now I have to rely on my colleagues to help me to find the right food. Okay. The agenda today will be the following. First, we have some facts. Secondly, we will have some historical review. And third, we're going to talk about greediness. I don't know the French expression, but I'm sure the French are as greedy as the Scottish people, and also like some Swedish people too. And then we're coming to my subject, do we need a driving license? I'm going to make some statements about that. Because it's important when we so complicated things today, the electronics, that maybe we need a driving license. Then I have created on my own a guide for both CAD and PCB, and also a guide for PCBA. And see what parameters does it exist, and what variables does it exist, and what does this variable cost. So this is the first time I present this in France. And then we have a summary. So this is what I'm going to do. And I hope you will be awake. Be careful, because I can maybe ask you a question. And if you're sleeping, you get red like a tomato. So the first thing, we have some facts. And you see here, you know, I'm from Sweden, so I have to compare Sweden with France. You know, France doesn't play football like Sweden. You see, we play football like this. France do it like that. That's the reason you lost in Paris this summer. Anyhow, look at this. Is this a French or a Swedish development? I don't know. I have to look at the old man's here, Pierre Jean, for instance. Maybe this is a development we have. But this was a couple of jokes. Now we're coming to the historical review. And you know, every one of you remember this. No, only a few one. How many of you were born 1960? Raise your hand. Oh, you have some old retired people sitting here. And you know, we love this because it was so simple to do. Even with the production technology at that time. So you can't go back, but it was very easy comparing with the boards today. But today, I know that France are very successful in the space area. We have boards, I'm sure you have boards in the space, in the rockets. But you know, this is questions, it's G-forces, complicated things. We have people on the moon, no French people yet, but maybe it will come. And you know, this guy, why my GPS is not working? How far is it to the service station? No one will, and you know, this is quality. You can't send a serviceman to the moon. You can. But it costs a fortune. And you know, if you have a car, this is not a Renault. This is another thing. And you know, these guys, maybe they have also a problem with the CO2 emission. So they have to maybe speak to Volkswagen. They know exactly how to fix it. And then you have also this heat. The things, the electronic has to stand lots of things. And also the heat. So it's the electronics, demand for the electronics today is complicated. And also the service situation. It's not so easy to fix. And I know that many of you are very, very good. But it's lots of parameters. And that's the reason I'm talking about driving license. And you're sitting here in Brest. But it's far away up here. How many of you have boards in the aerospace and aerospace area here? Yeah. Also in the airplanes. We know Airbus is successful. Complicated electronics. And you know, there comes to the problems we have. How many of you have met a purchasing man or woman? Purchasing. How many have met man? Yeah? Only a few people have met a purchaser. And you know, these people, I don't blame them because they need to have a good prices and a good qualities and good delivery times. But I would mention a couple of examples for you here, which comes from Europe. Of course, not from France. And you know, this thing, what we say, or the English people say, I don't know the expression in French, but you know, a small tuft can overturn a big load. And this is the tuft. It happens in France too. If you turn this over to two examples, which I will explain to you. Here we have the first example. This is a company, an OEM company owns products. In West Europe, WE, that's West Europe. And they have a purchasing department. They have an article. The article was not new, has been running for 3 years. Around 20,000 boards a year. It was 6-layer board. It included selective soldering and also cleaning. And they send it to the market. First, they have some contact with one EMS company placed in West Europe. And this electronic company, they have a price for 43 euro each, including components, testing, everything, for these boards. And after that, they send it to the market. And this works for 3 years. No complaints regarding production problem. Suddenly, this company say, yeah, we need to lower the prices. You have heard it before. We need to press the prices. Has never happened in France, but maybe it has been in Sweden for sure. So they asked another company, another EMS company, who was placed in Central East Europe. That means Romania, Bulgaria, or somewhere like that. And they have another price, 41 euro each. So they start to send this to the market. Now they have parallel production. Suddenly, they have lots of claims. They have dendrite problems with the board. The board didn't work anymore. A disaster. especially for the customer. This board was placed in a bigger machine. So now, they start to complain, or they get complaints up to the management. So they called me. And I was called to a meeting where we have the purchasing departments, we have the technical people, the design people, all involved in this. So then I said, after a while, I find out what they have done, or what the calculations were. The calculations was the following. They have of course calculated the profit for 40,000 euros, lots per year, lots of money. But now they have claim costs because of 1% of these boards was coming back from the field. And the cost to handle these claims under warranty cost around 250 euro each, which is lots. It cost them now 50,000 euros. Then they didn't know what was wrong, so they sent these boards to a laboratory in the United States. Cost them 35,000 euros. And plus, they have a ticking bomb. What's happening with the other 99% of the board? Who is in the field? Plus, will they lose orders? Because the customer gets upset and buy from the competition next time. So what is the conclusion of this? This is good for the EMS people. If you have a production who works and you don't have any problems, never move it. Because you can't find exactly the same factory. This EMS company, number 2, they promised, oh, we have the same production as the first one. But they didn't. The thing was they get dendrites like this because they used another flux in their selective soldering machine, which was not able to clean away with the cleaning process they used. So easy was it. And you know, the thing is, the difference between the board from number 1, who has cleaned, to the number 2, was over 1,500 units of how you create dendrites. So this was an enormous difference, just because they used another supplier of the flux. So think of this picture. Does it exist a connection between price and quality? The answer is yes. If you do it correctly and you investigate it, you get some more quality for your money. But to tell a purchaser that's impossible for him to understand. Another example. Now we have a military people, not from France. There was military people, they have, in West Europe, they were producing IPC class 3. They have internal design, they have internal layout and CAD, they have internal PCB production, in the same group. They have internal assembling and soldering. They sell it to the market, very high quality. Now comes the management. You know, the management you have, or maybe, is someone of you a manager? Top manager? Oh, very good. They say, this costs too much. It costs too much to have our own PCB production, our own assembling and soldering. So get rid of that. We should buy this from an external sources. But suddenly, here, technical people were involved, discussing what they shall do. They didn't discuss the cost. Discuss quality, reliability, technical matters. Now suddenly, this thing, when you buy this, it's not technical people, it's the purchasing people who is doing that instead. They talk in price and delivery. And suddenly, you have many claims. which costs much more than what you will have if you don't have any claims. So be careful here what you really do when you plan to move your production here and there because of the price. It can be other reasons, capacity reason, others, but that's another thing. So lower price doesn't need more higher profitability because you're going to lose money. Or the company going. Now we come to the question, because it's so complicated with all these things which I've shown, is it time for a driving license? It will not be exactly the same as we have when we're driving a car, but it's similar. We have that from IPC, validation services, which Pierre-Jean can tell you much more about. We can do things, or we have started to do the same thing like a driving license, but just to explain how difficult it is. In this chain, which is now really complicated and long. And you know, when the board comes out, maybe it's not correct, according to IPC class 2 or 3. And you know, you're sitting there with a defect board. Has never happened in France. But I'm sure it happens, I can assure you it happens in other countries. And if you see this chain, and when I was driving here to Brest, I said to myself, what is this similar to? This is similar to drive in Paris. Impossible. How many of you have been driving in Paris? Raise your hand. Okay. Most of the people, you are from Brest or Bretagne. You don't go to Paris. I can understand you. I can understand you. And you know, this happens like this. How many of you have crashed a car? No one in France have crashed a car, okay? You know, this is it's not Renault, it's Swedish cars. And the result is that. And you know, this is a picture of me. And maybe the EQ is, you can question my EQ. So now is the question, is it time for a driving license? To get rid of all problems or mistakes which people have done before, which can help you to avoid them. And maybe we should have that, some holder of a driving license. This is an idea from my side. I don't know if it fits France, the French people and the French women, but we will see. But to be able to do that, to see how complicated this is, I have created then this guideline for CAD and PCB. And this is done not by myself. I'm talking with my friends in this industry. So we're talking now about the CAD and the PCB production. So I created this chart. And you can say, oh my God, lots of figures. And maybe it's a sleeping pill. But anyhow, it was 28 important factors. And I'm not just talking about rigid board. I mean, if you have flex board and flex rigid, it's another chart. Then I said to myself, what is the mainstream? So I created the mainstream, and I said, if the mainstream price is 1, what will it different be when we start to change things? How many of you are project leaders? Here? Monsieur, project leader. And you know, the project leaders, they want everything for nothing. Correct? I mean, actually a little bit. And but what I want to, and this idea for this was I was making a seminar at a consulting firm in Sweden. And there are lots of consulting, I mean, project leaders and designers were sitting here. And they say, Lars, if we want to do that, what does it cost? If we want to do that, what does it cost? I couldn't answer them, but I was going home in the evening. Then I started to create this to see if the mainstream The positive thing for the mainstream, all PCB manufacturers really can do it. If you want to make an going outside the mainstream, you should know it's a cost. And not everyone can do it. So this is a guideline when you, for people like him, starting when the customer wants everything for nothing. Then I come to the next, the guide for PCBA. In the PCB, I had 28 points. In this, I have 48 points with lots of factors here. And then I say to myself, if we can start to spread this out, and I'm sure you have opinions about my factors, that's not the point. The point is that it is so many factors to take in account. This is the message. And when I see all this list, then come to my conclusion, maybe we need a driving license. So this is also one of my mantras, because it exists a connection here. And you know, when you see all these parameters and you don't have any control over it, what is this similar to? This is similar to Russian roulette. Because you never know what's going to happen. The question is how many bullets you shall load in a magazine before you try to shoot yourself. So now the new man, IQ 200. You are laughing, man. Maybe you're right. Did Einstein have 200? Or Madame Curie, maybe she had 250. Wasn't she French? Madame Curie? Curie? You are Curie? You know her? She has 2 Nobel Prizes. I think she is the only one who had 2 Nobel Prizes. Anyhow, now comes to the question, where can we find all this information? Yeah, for your information, I have created a checklist, and this is the new revision. And it's a revision October 1. So Pierre-Jean, who is doing it in French, he hasn't had time. You know Pierre-Jean? Yeah. He is the guilty one because you don't have it yet in French. But he has promised to fix it. And we will start the translation process today. And here you can find also these guidelines. And if you want it in English as a PDF file, just give me your card and your email, and you can have it tomorrow. It's about my time, Christian. Okay? So the summary is, will and can the electronic industry meet the future demands regarding quality? I think the answer is yes, if you start to plan your activities and take account of all the parameters who does exist. So here, if you have a holder of the driving license, you will have an advantage over your competitors. So I don't know how you can design or build houses in France, but in Sweden we start with the basement, not with the roof. But if you start on the wrong side, you will have houses like that. And they didn't use maybe standards and certifications. And this didn't use validation. So he's dead. And it's not a French guy, it's a Swedish guy. So thank you very much for this listening. And now if you have some smart, intelligent questions, you can raise them now.